Bonjour, je m'appelle Katie, avec what Katie did, and today I'm going to tell you about this Demoiselle bra. It's kind of a tradition in the US and the UK for lingerie brands to give their brands French or French-inspired names, and this goes all the way back to the 40s and 50s. Demoiselle actually means lady in French, in English, so it doesn't sound as romantic when you know what things actually mean, but in French, demoiselle sounds rather luxurious and exotic. Of course, in France is so well known for luxury lingerie, and I guess us Brits and US citizens and brands just want a bit of that glamour to rub off on us. I picked up this bra a couple of years ago from vintage fashion dealer Debbie Dunn, or Deborah Dunn, who does a lot of the vintage shows. She does all the rockabilly raves, and she actually got this at the Twinwood Festival about 3 years ago now, and she had a whole suitcase of lingerie, and she said it actually came from a house clearance, and she thinks it was actually a salesperson, a lingerie salesperson, who owned this, because everything's still got tags on, and it's actually got the notes on there about where it came from and the salesperson. So it's dead stock, which means it's never been worn. I have tried to do some research on the brand Demoiselle, and I really can't find anything at all. Demoiselle, meaning lady, has been used for other lingerie brands over the years, and so that confuses the Google results. I have found just a couple pieces. I found one bustier on Etsy, and I found 2 pieces of swimwear on another website, but that really is it. I haven't found anything else at all. Of course, as I go through my collection, I might find more pieces, because I did get a whole suitcase from Debbie, but the brand in itself, I can't find anything about the history, anything at all. So this really is a stab in the dark. So instead of telling you a bit about the brand and what happened, I'm going to tell you a bit about the construction and the tricks they used and how it compares with how bras are made today. This bra is made from quite a thick satin, and it has a denier lining underneath, and we use a denier lining in quite a lot of our bras to give a little bit of structure and support. So this is the denier here. It's a very sheer, like 20 denier nylon mesh, which is non-stretch, although like with a lot of fabrics, it does have a bit of mechanical give. So if you stretch it one way, it will give a bit, and the other way it won't give at all. And we use this in the lining of a lot of our bras. For example, this blue bra here is actually lined in denier, which is very, very fine, so you can hardly see it. But that is the same method as what they've lined this bra with. You can see the cutout here. So they've got the denier beneath the satin, which gives a sheer cutout look, and it gives the cutout stability, and also it makes it look a bit naughty because it is sheer. The way they've done this is interesting, because it's a feature you wouldn't find in today's bras, because it would be expensive to do. If you were making just a few bras, this would have been cut out by hand, but as this is a company, I think this would have been made in a press. And if you think about a biscuit cutter or a cake cutter, you'd have the press made just to make this design, and you'd have lots of layers of fabric, and the press would come down and it would cut through all the layers of fabric and make these cutouts. And then when making the bra, they've actually used a very tiny overlock stitch to bind the edges, to seal the edges of the satin, so it doesn't run. Another feature you find in vintage bras, which isn't so common today, is the monowire, and this means that the wire is in one piece all the way through. And in addition, vintage, 1950s, 1960s bras, a lot of them didn't have a cradle, by which I mean it doesn't have the bit here. The underwire goes right up to the section to the top here, and when you wear this, it does feel strange, because you're not used to having the center section so high up, and it's rather like when someone tries on a bullet bra, and I ask them if they've worn a bullet bra before, and if they say no, I say you have to give it a minute because it gives you totally a different shape to a modern bra, and it is slightly disconcerting. And this is the same. It's not a silhouette you're used to, and being different does feel a little bit strange. And it's like, do I like this or do I not? But it is certainly a unique feature. Moving on, the straps are satin. A lot of bra straps were satin back in the day before they had elastic. Elastic is expensive now. It's actually, when we make lingerie, elastic is quite an expensive component compared with everything else. So back in the 50s and early 60s, you can imagine that back then the elastic would be even more expensive, so the ribbon would have been cheaper to use. And at the back we have this interesting hook and eye detail, which is used on a lot of vintage bras, and instead of having the modern hook and eye, you have this kind of hook that hooks in here, and let me tell you, it is a pain. It is really a pain to do up, so it's no surprise that this kind of hook and eye went out of fashion. So I'll take this bra off now and show you what's inside. This is where it gets quite interesting if you're into lingerie, because inside you can see that it's the monowire, and you can see that the wire has been covered with this fabric here. It's kind of a soft, fuzzy fabric, all in one piece, and at the top they've added a little bit of satin, which is slightly padded, because obviously you were worried about the underwire sticking out. I'm not sure, this casing would have been commercially made, but there wasn't a standard casing at this point, and many luxury bras actually use velvet ribbon as a wire casing. And this, when you look at it, I think, oh, this is a luxury piece, but looking at the underwire casing, it doesn't look that fancy, and that might be just because it's a British brand and the Brits didn't have a nice velvet finish. But if this was a vintage French bra, it would have velvet underwire casing. Today we have something called Fortitube, and this is a ready-made wire casing which you can get in all colours or you can dye to match. And this is basically soft on one side and you have the plain fabric on the other, and you just slide. You make the bra, so the bra is fully made, and when it's fully made, the underwire slots in to make the shape like that. And of course it would go all the way up, but this is just an example to show how easy it is to do today, as opposed to how it would have been in the past, where this was sewn on and then this was sewn on, and just a lot more complicated than just using a bit of Fortitube, which gives such a nice neat finish. I mean, even I can sew that on and make it look respectable. The satin used to make this bra is quite heavy, and if you're going to recreate this bra today or a similar style, you'd use a lighter weight satin, but that in turn would make this part impossible to sew, and using a heavy satin really wouldn't appeal to a modern audience at all. You can tell here that the shape is very pronounced. It's pointy, even though it's not made to be a bullet bra. It's just, this was still really when bras were evolving, and obviously they're still evolving now with bralettes and everything, but this was the early days of underwired bras, and the fit that was acceptable then really isn't acceptable now. For example, this says it's a size 34-35, but no cup is mentioned at all. So was this just one cup size? The other thing to look at is the actual bands, and if you look at the bands here, you can see how high up it starts on the cup. And this was at a time when you didn't have very many cup sizes. So if you had a larger cup size, instead of buying a larger cup size because they weren't available, you'd have to go up a band size. So you see women wearing bras a lot higher up on the back, and this kind of emphasizes this as well, because in a modern bra you'd have the band would go straight along the bottom of the cup, as opposed to being worn so high up. So that's another thing that's evolved over the years as well. I will be gradually going through my vintage collection, not just because I hope you find it interesting, but also for me, because I've been collecting lingerie now for like 27 years, and I've got so much in my collection. I really can't remember what I have and what I don't have. And my husband said to me last year, he said, we've got storage, and he said, oh, I've got all these vintage pieces in storage, and I didn't even know we had anything in storage. So I'm hoping that by doing like one video a week, fingers crossed, then gradually I'll get through my collection in a few years, and I'll have it all documented and archived, and it'll help me know how things are made and remember what I have. And it's just little things, because quite often when I'm in the factory, it's trying to work out how to do something, and just how to do like a certain little stitch. And instead of traveling with a suitcase full of vintage lingerie, which is what I used to do many years ago, if I have a reference to it on video and the pictures, then I can say, oh yeah, that they just did it with a tiny overlocker, and would we be able to do that with the fabric we're using, and what do we think, how would that work? So it's a reference point for me, it's a reference point for other lingerie designers, and of course it's just general interest for people into vintage fashion. So if you are into vintage fashion, vintage lingerie, please follow and take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.